Hey everyone, it's Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here, back with a live episode for another Thursday show. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting. I really just got to put a post-it note up here. Coming to you live from the Smokin' Studios at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. Thank you so much, Randy, for coming up with that name. I will get better at saying it every single week. I absolutely promise. I also noticed that my camera's a little tilted here, so let me adjust that. Tonight, we've got a very special guest. No reason to put them in the back and bring them in when they're in studio like we have here. So if you see below me, and this is Casey over here at Axe and Oak. But before we get into the show tonight, just want to do a huge shout out to all the show sponsors. Thank you so much as well. Axe and Oak, big sponsor of the show, the official bourbon and drink of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. But we also have BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Kristoff, K by Karen Berger. We've got New Air Humidors, Sagrado Cigars, Micallef. And what a month that Micallef gave us last month for March. Holy cow, that was such a great Micallef takeover. We've got Big Sky. We've got Cornell and Diehl as well. And tonight, just to start the show off, we are drinking the Axe and Oak. See if I can get this to focus. Okay, it normally doesn't do this, but there's two people in studio today. So there we go. So we are drinking the Axe and Oak port cask is what I'll say. If you're looking for it, go to Axe and Oak Distillery on their website. There you go. And you could find it on their site, and they'll ship it directly to your door. So the other big show announcements I wanted to bring up today as well is we finally launched ticket sales for Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, and we are super excited as they are selling very quickly right now. If you're remotely interested in the Colorado area and would like to come, Casey will be there. Casey's also going to be showcasing their wide variety of amazing spirits as they will be running the bar during the event. And so please hop over, see what drinks they have, and try anything that they have as well. But if you're in the Colorado area or would like to visit Colorado in July, it's a really good time of the month. July 21st, which is a Friday. The event starts at 6 and it goes to 10. Tickets are $150. Gives you a whole bunch of swag and stuff with it as well. Last year we gave away closer to the $300 range worth of swag with glasses, custom-made glasses that we're actually drinking out of tonight with our beautiful little logo on it. We have a commemorative challenge coin for the event as well. So definitely check us out. You could find out all the information on eventbrite.com. Just search Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, and it'll take you right there, and you can read all about it. This year's benefiting is Shadow Warriors Project. We're actually going to have Mark Osgeist, if you're familiar with the movie 13 Hours. He was a character in that movie. So he will be there, and he's going to be giving a little speech before the whole thing to kind of kick everything off. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic event. You can read all about Shadow Warriors Project on shadowwarriorsproject.org or in our site on eventbrite.com. Search Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, and it'll take you right there. So now,
amazing grounds too.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, dude, if you ever thought you could talk your wife that doesn't smoke cigars into going an event because the venue is a huge star of the event,
it's amazing.
Just convince your wife to go to this, and it'll be. Trust me, she will love you. It's like a rom-com movie set in the back, and he's got rapids like out of Deliverance that he put in the backyard. It's a 1920s castle that he spent 20 years refreshing it, putting it back to life. It is absolutely stunning, and we're going to have a lot of fun stuff there this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let's move on to our guest of the night, Casey. Casey, how you doing?
I'm doing great now. I got a smoke. I got some whiskey. I got a buddy next to me. Had a long, hard day doing some blends. We did some bottling today, and we're transferring a bunch of fun barrels. Today we transferred bourbon that's been sitting in a cognac barrel for 3 years into a sherry barrel. So we're going to let it sit in the sherry barrel for probably 6 months to a year. It's awful having to taste these barrels.
I know it's got to be terrible.
But,
it's got to be terrible.
It's going to be delicious. So we actually went through a lot of barrels today. We tasted bourbon in an Armagnac barrel. We tasted some shine in a Calvados barrel, some shine in a Chardonnay barrel, some of our chocolate shine, shine in a tequila barrel. Man, we just bounced around, just making sure they're still good, not being over oaked. So it was a cool day.
So I definitely want to get into all those barrels because there's a lot of those I've never even heard of barrel wise. Before we do, give everybody, I'm going to go ahead and continue doing some sharing here. Give everybody a brief little history of the 5 friends that started. Yes, it's like a mafia. There's 5 families that started this organization. So go ahead and give a little brief history, where you guys started, and take it wherever you want.
Yeah, so Casey Ross, I was born here in Colorado Springs, and have just wonderful friends that are now partners. We started kind of tinkering around. We were making some beer. We were all real passionate about brown spirit, just love it. Kind of started with our partner, Jason Jackson. He's been in the Springs for about 25 years, kind of bounced all over the place. Great guy. And he, local singer-songwriter, amazing musician. He was playing at Flying Horse Country Club one night and had some Knob Creek. And that's kind of what sealed the deal and started this whole thing. So Jason was one of those guys. We love working with our hands and making things. And he started roasting his own coffee. Became really good at that. And then moved out east, had a little property out there, had animals, started hunting all his own meat and catching his own fish and living off the land. So we've been hunting together for years and everything. We're like, man, if they're doing it, we can do it, And when we became legal with the federal government, we were making some shine, experimenting with some different concoctions and mash bills, and really honed in on some awesome recipes. And we had a bunch of friends over in my backyard one night, had a little fire, and it was a blind tasting. So we had everything proof from 90 proof all the way to 102 proof. And at the end of the night, we all landed at 92 proof. So we haven't changed that proofing on our flagship bourbon since we started. Obviously now we have cask strength and we have other products that we're working with, but our flagship bourbon has always stayed at 92 proof. So when we got going, we were just in a little 2,000 square foot facility and started making some bourbon. And at the time there was a 3-month regulation on a bourbon. And we needed the money. So we kind of took the risk with all having day jobs, and you know how that is. It's just crazy. And you have all these side projects. Well, with a distillery, before you submit your application, you have to have your brick and mortar. You have to have all of your equipment, and we couldn't touch it for 9 months. We had to wait for all of our license and certifications and all of that fun stuff, our DSP, to come in. So it was just a big risk that we were paying rent on a space that we could do nothing in.
Sure.
And so that was tough. That was very nerve wracking. We made it through that process. We aged for 3 months and started kicking it out there in liquor stores. And at the time I was doing all the marketing, and I was like, Jason, we need to do some competitions. We need to do the North American Bourbon and Whiskey competition and the Denver International. And he's like, no way. We're not doing any competitions. And obviously our product was young. But I was like, hey, no one knows us. Let's just get out there and get our name out. So we entered not expecting anything but to get our name out there. And we took silver in both of those really big competitions. And we're still a small distillery, but we've won some of the biggest awards in the world.
No Name took silver on your first competition.
Yeah, very first one. Yeah.
Were you guys even officially Axe and Oak at that time?
We were.
Yeah. You were, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what does that mean, by the way? Like, okay, so, you win awards. There's certain awards that automatically mean you're going to get X, Y, and Z company are going to reach out for this. So what does that mean to a distillery when they win a silver in something? Is it more just bragging rights, or does it come with clout?
Well, it just depends on what competition, because it seems like Pueblo West has a competition that all these little small towns and all these cities across the nation and the world now have a spirit competition. So we try to aim for the prestigious competitions that have been around the longest, that actually do something for you. And a lot of those international, like the New York International, the San Francisco, the LA, World Whiskey Awards, World Spirit Awards. So there's some big ones that we try to focus on, and it really helps with marketing, and it gets you placed in different whiskey magazines and websites and all that stuff for people to track you. And soon as they see a brand winning awards, they're more apt to go out and buy your product. So it's really worked for us. We've taken gold and all of the big ones with our bourbon and our gin and our vodka.
Rightfully so.
Our rye took double gold last year in the Cigar and Spirits International. Everyone knows Opus X. We've been paired in the Whiskey and Spirits magazine with our rye. They paired it with the Opus X.
Did they really?
They did. Yeah.
When was that?
It was the one with Bob Dylan on the cover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I hope
you
blew that picture up and posted it.
It was cool.
That is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unbeknownst to you, they did this?
It was a competition that we entered. They do a competition every year, and we did really well. We took a double gold, and then they pair all the winners with different cigars.
So what does double gold mean?
It means one more gold than just one more. No, it's so some of these competitions, they just go up to gold. Some of them go to platinum or double platinum. For instance, our cast strength bourbon, it's called the First State cast strength bourbon. It did great for us in competition last year. It took gold in the San Fran and the New York and the Denver International. There you go. Boom. And that's just been a fun bottle, a great bottle for us, and it's done really well in competition. And Fred Minnick, a lot of bourbon drinkers know who he is, and he has his own competition called the Ascot Awards, and that took platinum in his competition this past year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it like the first time? Well, before we get there, I want to ask. So there's top 10 lists all the time. For the pretty much you name a product, there's a top 10 list for it. Television, cigars. How much of people winning silver, when they see that on the bottle, how much do you think that actually persuades people to try it?
For me, it's just like going in and buying a bottle of wine or pulling a 6-pack of beer out of the cooler. A lot of the time, the image or the graphics on the can or the bottle, that's what sells the product. A lot of these shelf talkers, a lot of the medallions and the whiskey awards that go onto the bottle, it does help. I've been known to go in looking for a bottle of something and pull something off the shelf just because it looks awesome, or it has a write-up from that competition that's on the shelf talker, and it's like, oh, okay, well this scored 92, or it took a gold or a platinum. It has the tasting notes on it, and that stuff, it really works. It's really helped.
So in other words, it could be a deal breaker not a deal breaker, but a tiebreaker. If I've got two bottles to the average consumer in my hand, sure, one has a medal on it and the other doesn't, I may go for this. So then it's intuitive for you to put those awards labeling all over the bottle, or as much as you can.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because I have found myself going, this won an award. Now, at what point in time when you don't win an award do you feel it's kind of disingenuous because I've seen on some bottles where they have taken the date of the award off because it's like Now it's a staple of the bottle. It's been on there for so long.
Right. Yeah. Some people are funny about that. But yeah, it's interesting how things work and how things flow and everything with that. It is a little interesting with some of these spirit competitions because all of these judges, some of them are a double blind. I like the double blind.
That makes the most sense.
But some of them have so many products that are going in. It's like, do I trust that the judges' palates aren't completely scorched at this moment in time when they taste our product? So we've had the same product go up and take a gold, for instance, and then the next year, obviously there's a lot of bourbons that get thrown at it, but then we get a bronze or a silver. So it's just, where's their palate at that specific point in time? It's a hard call.
Also, what did they eat that day?
Totally.
Like, in my opinion, if you're going to be a tasting judge, there should be criteria around what you're allowed to eat before the competition.
Right. And I'm sure that's in discussion as they get ready to taste. But yeah, are they having us after their lunch break?
Correct.
Right. It's
because how full your stomach is.
Mm-hmm.
I know even I could eat some of the best food ever after I'm full, and I'm like, I don't even want it.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, sure. No, I mean that's a very valid point. Your product stays the same, but different awards each year, and a lot of it, I'm sure you're 100% is where you are in that line. So as you guys are developing this and creating Axe and Oak, how much of it in the beginning was for shits and giggles, and how much of it was a serious thing? And you know what I mean by that? Yeah. Like, oh, I would love to have a brand. I would love to. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, we're actually signing paperwork.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of that. My background is automotive, and then I toured with theater and rock and roll all over the world for several years. And I was saving up and buying a lot of tools and equipment to start a fabrication company to build cars and custom motorcycles. And I did a lot of custom furniture for residential and commercial. And that's what I was going to do when I got off the road. And then started tinkering around with Jason. And I was like, man, I think it's just going to be more fun making whiskey with buddies. So there you go. It's like, okay, well this, I think we're going to laugh a little bit more than me
busting my
knuckles. Right. And so when we made the decision to move forward with it, submit that application, things got serious. We thought it was going to be more for our community, Colorado Springs, Colorado as a whole. Now we're in 8 states, and we're in Germany. We're licensed in 17 other states. We're just about to do a huge expansion into the state of Arkansas with opening up another distillery. And then there's a potential 3rd distillery that we're looking at in Texas right now.
Wow. Guys, listen, I've been drinking them for years before I was ever remotely part of, let me get this boom out your way so you can reach over.
You're good.
I was drinking them for years before I was remotely even part of doing the show. And when it came in time for, I really, really wanted, since the name of the show is Rocky Mountain, I really wanted to keep that theme. And it was very important that if I was ever going to ask a brand to be like the show drink exclusively, that it had to be a Colorado brand. And when I was thinking about this, I thought of a few others. And then my wife looked at me literally as we were drinking. Actually, she goes, "Why don't you just call the guys down there?" And I'm like, "I don't even know where to begin to start." And she goes, "This never stopped you before." So I hounded Casey. Finally, we were able to connect. We met down. It was you, me, and was that Eric or Jason? No, that was Jason.
Yeah.
That first time, guys, if you're in Colorado Springs, go to Idlewild. It's an old school. At the bottom, they have in the basement, it's their own section. You can smoke cigars outside. They're all 5 cigar guys. So it was a perfect. I think we smoked like 3 or 4 cigars that night.
We did.
It was a perfect match, and check them out. They do a tobacco old fashioned, which is absolutely out of this world. Plus, they do shows. So if you're in Colorado, in Denver, never been down to the Idlewild building, check out the Oak Distillery down there. Bring as much money as you can because you are going to be having tons of great drinks. They have music. Like I said, bring your cigars as well. You can sit outside. They have heaters. You could gather around and smoke a cigar. It's a really, really great place.
Always a good time. We have a great crew down there, great mixologist, and they do it upright.
Absolutely. So as you guys are tinkering around, going through this process, what you made what you have now when you were tinkering?
When we first started, no, we initially just played with a lot of different mash bills. So coming up with what we really wanted in that profile to look like for our bourbon. And I think we nailed it. And what we did was we hammered for 4.5 years, and then we tripled production, we quadrupled sales, and started depleting our own barrels. We got into the game because we love bourbon, we love brown spirit, and we wanted to do everything ourselves. Now we kind of cussed everybody's names that were doing sourcing from bulk distilleries, because a lot of these distilleries out there, even now, they're not making a drop of spirit.
So you're talking the difference between single malt and blend.
Well, I'm just talking about a distillery. It's more of a marketing or business approach to selling spirit.
So I know who you're thinking about.
They get into the game and they basically put their marketing, their label on the bottle, and they source all of their spirit. So we started out making all of our own spirit, which was very difficult. And we got to the point where we were either going to shut our doors or we were going to feed our families and move forward. And so all of those big bulk distilleries that we were cussing their name, we have great relationships with them now. They're wonderful people. They make really good spirit. And now we're blending with our own. Some of our blends are other spirit that we're just trying to grow and catch up. That's why this big expansion is in the works. We've been in business for 10 years now. We've been looking for buildings here in Colorado for the last 8 years. And, unfortunately, have been kind of unsuccessful there. The economics here in Colorado are really tough, regulation. And so we were able to buy this building in Arkansas, and we will increase production there by 22 times. So we're hooking 2 distillation systems up there, and we're going to be able to put 1,000 to 1,200 barrels away a year, and we'll keep on making product, and we're going to keep on blending as well. We've become really good at the blending game. We like keeping product consistent and super highly award winning.
So as you're going through this process of getting started, and did you do the great friendships now because you understand more of what it takes to create the quantity? Meaning, you said you had cursed some of the names without mentioning any of them.
Sure.
But then once you kind of got into the thick of it, it was kind of more like, oh, now I see why they do this.
Yeah, it's really hard for a craft distillery. There's some craft distilleries here in Colorado that I give huge props to because they're still making their own product. We started the company with very little money. None of us had a huge bank account and stuff. We kind of kicked a bunch of dimes in a little pile and started the company. So kudos to those. And some of those are great friends here in Colorado with Deerhammer in Buena Vista, Woods High Mountain in Salida, 291, Colorado Springs, We have Laws and Bear Creek, and there's some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful distilleries here in our home state that they are still making all of their product without sourcing anything. And, I have to commend them on that. We got to the point where we're very transparent about what we've done and how we've operated. We kicked out a big press release because we thought we were going to get a lot of pushback from fans and other distilleries.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember calling some of our big distillery buddies, and I believe 10th Group was one of them, and 10th Mountain, and they're like, congratulations for getting to that point. So the way that we scaled and grew, we just really didn't anticipate, and we couldn't make enough juice. So we're just kind of setting ourselves up for the future with this Arkansas push, and it's going to be really great. It's going to be really great.
But see, that's commendable, though, that you guys thought that highly of not just your product, to be honest, or your name, to be honest, but that highly of your clientele, your consumers, your customers, that other lesser companies maybe would have pulled wool over their eyes and kind of shuffled that off. So
yeah,
that's awesome. That's honesty at its finest. And that's what makes you guys so great. And it's one of the reasons why when I know, I'm like, hey, I've never had this bottle from them before, I know it's going to be great. Get it. Or I'm not a big vodka gin person. Everybody that I've had try your citrus gin, is absolutely loves it. It's something completely different than most of your gin drinkers.
Sure.
And this is the only gin that I am obsessed with. I've talked about it on the show so many times. It's barrel aged, and it's absolutely it fucks with the mouth because it's kind of like, is it whiskey? Is it gin?
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of bourbon drinkers just love it.
It's fantastic.
That Citra, it's a heavy Citra gin. I've never really enjoyed that big juniper punch, and this one doesn't overwhelm the palate with that juniper. It's very subtle. You can drink it on its own. It's great in cocktail. And we barrel aged the same product, the same gin, in new white oak, and so it's pulling all the vanilla out of the barrel. And it's I explain it. It's kind of like an orange creamsicle. And bourbon drinkers just really enjoy it. No,
it's fantastic. And even again, I don't drink vodka. Your vodka. Oh, I had it up here. It's
somewhere. There's one.
There's a bottle in here.
There you go.
Your vodka is
maybe I didn't.
No worries. I have it. It's literally here.
It just took gold in one of the biggest.
But it's $25 is what I see it sold for online on your website. Mm-hmm. And I showed my buddy this, who drinks nothing but Grey Goose, Belvedere, mm-hmm. And a few of the other higher end vodka. And he literally went out and bought like 3 bottles from the store.
Yeah.
He's like, it's $25. He goes, I spend $40 for this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, come to think of it, I just need something that has a clean taste because I mix everything with it.
It's a weeded vodka, and it's just really nice.
Yeah,
it's
nice,
great. Sweet notes. And
I could actually drink it straight without making a face.
Yeah.
Which I usually can't do. So you guys are now a company, you're now starting. You have your place, you walk in and flip the lights on and you go, whoa. Holy shit. Yeah. So and some of this, by the way, I'm asking selfishly for myself, because I started a company with my buddy for bacon. So if anybody wants Colorado bacon, Rocky Mountain Gourmet Bacon Company, reach out, DM me, however you've got to do it. RM Cigars 5280 at Gmail. We'll get you on the list. And we'll tell you all about it. I guarantee you it'll be the best you've ever had.
So good.
Not my words. Yes, thank you. It's not my words. It's literally everybody that has ever bought it. So a lot of time and effort. So some of these questions are selfishly directed at me, but I think they're also interesting as well for anybody that may be watching, trying to set up a company or a business, because a lot of it is kind of the same thing. You had to find space. Businesses have to find offices. You had to find material. They've got to buy desks and computers. So you start in this facility.
Yeah.
Where do you start first? Do you just instantly go right for mash barrels and then go, as we're mashing, we'll put everything else?
Yeah, well, the timeline was really difficult for us when we started. Not only did we have the 9-month period where we were just waiting on the federal government, we were on a waiting list for barrels. Now, we're a company that's starting with a bourbon. Bourbon, you have to, wait for it to age and get that beautiful color and the flavor and all that stuff. So we didn't get our first, if kind enough of Mr. Michael down at 291, Michael Myers. We bought our first 7 barrels from Michael Myers at 291. It was an ISC barrel, 53 gallon. We bought 3 25-gallon barrels and 3 10-gallon barrels. And that's what we started with. And then we're so thankful for Kelvin Cooperage out of Kentucky. We were able to get a bunch of barrels from them, and then they kind of got caught up and we were able to rock and roll. Well, today we are now on another waiting list, and now the waiting list is between a year and 2 year for barrels. So now we're moving to Arkansas for this big expansion, anticipating all of this juice to be flowing. And now we're going to be kind of hindered because of barrels. Now we have 400 barrels being made right now, but we're going to be able to fill those pretty quick
at the new facility. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
2 days.
And we've been working on an American single malt, and we just got a designation for it a few months back. So it was a lot of work, many years that they were fighting that battle, because we can't call it a Scotch. So we now have a designation for a true American single malt whiskey. And so we're going to fill those 400 barrels, and then we can use a second use barrel for a single malt. So that's our plan, is to fill those barrels. We're going to put them under lock and key and do a 4-year bottled and bond. So that'll be cool. That'll be the first time that Axe and Yoke has ever done that. And then we're going to go really heavy into single malt until we can get our hands on more barrels. But, supply chain, it's tough. We've ran out of glass before. We've run out of corks before. And it's hard to stay ahead of the game when everyone else around the world is running out of things. We try to source as much from the U.S. as we can. All of our bottles are made here in the U.S. Our corks are made in Portugal. So we are a true cork. We're trying to stay true in everything, and it's tough. Business is tough. Yeah.
So explain to everybody, what is barrel and bond?
Bottled and
bond.
So not back in the day. That they wanted to have it under lock and key. So basically we have to literally have it. In the new distillery, we have a caged section of the distillery.
Legit has to be
locked up for 4 years. Yeah.
And what's the advantage, or why would that be a big deal for a company?
So, it's kind of cool when you can get to that point. So they were wanting it because a lot of people were releasing it as a back in the day, when it was the Wild West, they were releasing it as an older product. And so this was a way that you would kind of get a stamped designation that you had an older spirit, a true bottled and bond. So it's kind of cool. So there's a lot of history to it for sure.
So the lock and key is to guarantee the age.
Yeah.
That's more or less because people were putting younger stuff in and selling it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So why would that be something that you said you had to get approved for that?
You don't have to really get approved. You just have to go through with a TTB, work with them to get things done. But this is the first time that we'll be able to do it. Really, we've never been able to let spirit age for that long. Okay. So this will be a nice way of setting it aside. And with making, we will be releasing other product at the same time. We try to release a 3-year. For our bourbon and our rye, and that goes. So we have right now we have some of our own barrels that we're blending with 3-year sourced bourbon and sourced rye.
So you certainly are going to have the room to set aside the barrels in this new place. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the new place here.
Mm-hmm.
But you had mentioned that you got approved for a single malt. My understanding of single malt Scotch per se is the single distillery making start to finish, soup to nuts, its own no blend.
Yeah, so it has to
outside
come
of the facility
from one distillery. It has to be 100% malt. So, and we're gonna do. I can't let out some secrets right now, but we're gonna be doing some fun stuff with the single malt that we're working on. So we're just gonna crack on with that.
So it's gonna be as what's the word I'm looking for? A campfire-y.
Yeah, so you can actually do a peated.
That's what the word I was looking for.
But yeah, it's not something that you have to do.
Okay.
So, so we're still working on some mash bills. We only have about 3 different concoctions that we're working with right now, but they're all delicious. So
I'm sure they are. So single malt. So that this is going to be start, run, end. Obviously, it has to be malted.
Yeah.
But why would the laws around that be if it's going out on you a little bit?
We're good.
Why would you have to get specific? Like, you're already able to sell booze. Like, what's with that?
Yeah, we couldn't call it, because a lot of people were trying to call it, call it a Scotch, and then getting a lot of pushback.
It was more naming.
Yeah, so just like nowhere else in the world you can make a bourbon. You can make a bourbon. You can't call it a bourbon.
Correct.
We can't call it tequila a tequila. We can call it an agave spirit.
Correct.
But we can't call it a tequila. We can't call a Scotch a Scotch.
Correct.
So now we have our own designation, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I think that's going to be the next big thing here in the States.
Awesome. And for a little history, when he said can't call a Scotch a Scotch or a bourbon outside of the U.S. or outside Scotland, a lot of that, for those of you that don't know, had to do when a bourbon was originally done in the legal terms of what bourbon was. It had to be Kentucky or Tennessee, 3-year aged, 51% corn, and then that changed.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Kentucky grandmas out there that I've seen at events. Like, you can't call that a bourbon.
That's crap.
Right.
It's from the U.S.
Yeah,
bourbon's
so
U.S.
from the U.S. 51% corn mash has to go into new American white oak.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be distilled any higher than 160 proof, and it can't go into the barrel any higher than 125 proof. So right now there's no age statement on it, and but we're trying to age for as long as possible.
Oh, I always thought there was for bourbon to have a 3-year age.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
nope.
And that was me being wrong.
It's new. Yeah.
So you're having a hard time sourcing barrels. Why do you think, because I know the Scotch world buys a ton of bourbon barrels because they don't like the virgin because of too much vanilla note or so on and so forth, too much sugariness of that. Why can't you guys just why does it have to be virgin? What is it's nothing more than a law. There's no purpose behind it.
Yeah. And I think with spirits, and honestly, it's kind of cool. We stick with tradition, and that's what they've kind of always done. And, so,
hey, Bruce,
so I guess it's one of those things where you would start pulling flavor. Your product wouldn't be consistent.
I get it. Okay.
So you want it to be right. So the new oak, it's going to do what you want it to do. A second use, your flavor profile is going to start changing.
Okay.
The color that you're pulling from that barrel, because that char has been changed.
Yep.
So you're not going to get what that new barrel does to your product.
Have you guys ever tried reusing just to see if it was like a second use barrel?
No, we've we wouldn't be able to call it a bourbon one. We could call it a whiskey.
Yeah.
But we actually haven't. We've just always stuck to our flagship spirits. And, I guess if it came down to releasing the product and we ran out of barrels and we had to just use a second use, we would have to change our label.
Yeah,
and
well,
roll with
you'd
the
have
whiskey.
to show that.
Yeah.
So by the time those barrels get to Scotland, they're dried out.
Well, they ship hydrated and stuff, and I'm sure they're fine when they get over. But yeah.
Now, something that you and I talked about a little while ago that actually completely blew me away when you talked to me about the ratio that I don't think a lot of people really understand. So Casey explained to me why a 20-year, a 30-year, a 40, a 50-year is actually as expensive as it is. How much do you lose on a barrel, percentage-wise, if you age it for 20 years?
You're not getting much out of the barrel. So, for instance, we've obviously never released a 20-year. The oldest barrel that we've ever released was an 8-year. So typically you get roughly 200 to 230 bottles out of a 3 to 4 year bourbon. Out of an 8-year, you're going to get 160 to 170, I would say, on average. And it's always going to change. It depends on where you're getting the barrels, because a lot of it, people don't really think about this as well. Some oak trees, and Jason explains this all the time, some oak trees are on a hillside. Some of them are on a riverbed. So your oak is completely different. Completely different. So how the bourbon is soaking into the oak and that char, as it's expanding and contracting and everything, it's a wild, beautiful accident that happened a long time ago, and I'm extremely thankful that it was figured out. Because what oak and that barrel does to this beautiful spirit is just amazing.
Yes,
it's amazing.
It's incredible. So, just for context, how many when you just fill up a barrel, how many bottles are in a full new unaged barrel?
Yeah, bottles. You're getting at that point probably 230, depending on what you're proofing it to. You're getting 230 to 240, I would say.
No, when you fill it with content, when you fill it with the content.
So a barrel is 53 gallons.
So how many bottles is that on average?
About 230, 240.
So after 8 years, you're getting around
one. Yeah, I said 160, 170, but we've had some 8-year barrels that and half away due to some barrels that weren't the best. We think the least amount of bottles we got was 153 bottles out of that barrel. So some of these older barrels that are,
that's a 20 to 40% loss.
Yeah.
So when you're buying a 20-year barrel or aged or 8 years or 10, what they're doing is they're taking the totality of how many bottles went into it and then dividing that out. But to know that you're in 8 years up to potentially 30% loss in that, that's shocking.
And it's just one of those things where you're at the liquor store and you're looking on the shelf and you have a cast strength craft distillery, small guy. It's more than the big guy. And you're like, well, what's going on here? Well, we don't have as much of that juice as these big guys have. They have a plethora. And so they're able to work with a little less margin. And the craft guys can't do it.
Now, explain to everybody, because there's probably some people out there that don't know the term cask strength, because it's not cask strength from the sense that it's literally directly from the barrel. It still has to be cut down to an extent. But what makes a cask strength different than a non-cask strength?
So like from our flagship to our cask, when we pull for our flagship bourbon, we pull it out of the barrel, we filter it, and we proof it down by adding water. And we proof it down to 92 proof. Same thing with the cask. Some are pulled directly out of the barrel and bottled, at whatever it is. Some of them are super hot, really high in octane.
Mm-hmm.
What is this one at?
59.
117
Yeah,
proof.
59.5.
Yeah. So that one was pulled directly out of the bottle and just filtered and bottled.
Okay.
Pulled out of the barrel, filtered and bottled. So but they range drastically from all over the place, but a lot of them are still hold that around that 125 proof. Some of them are toned down. Some of them that we taste are a little too spicy for our profile. So we knock them down a little bit. A lot of the single barrel picks, most of them are strictly at that proof. Like
Okay.
if a cigar club or a bourbon society, they come through and they pick a barrel from
Yep.
you, they want it at that cask. And that's a beautiful part of a cask strength bourbon is depending on what kind of bourbon drinker you are, you can put that cask strength anywhere you want it.
Mm-hmm.
If you like it hot and spicy, perfect at that high octane. A lot of people do.
I do.
If you want to knock it down with a big cube or a splash of water, you can do that.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah. So it's just really neat.
By the way, if you guys are in the Denver area, go to Tobacco Leaf, get up with John Schweitzer. Axe and Oak does a lot of stuff with the Tobacco Leaf as well. They're part of their bourbon group, and they do limited releases for that Colorado Gentlemen's Society on Facebook page. So definitely check that out as well if you're big bourbon drinkers. That'll give you a little piece of Axe and Oak that you can't buy in the store. I've had 2 or 3 of those bottles as well, and they've all been fantastic as I expect they would be. So I've always been curious, what makes a company settle on the proof? What I mean by that is you have, just throwing a name out there. I really am not even a big fan of theirs, but you have Wild Turkey that'll just burn your whole face off going down at 100 plus proof. And then you look at most of them, they're in that 40, 45. Do you get to pick that heat range, that proof range?
Yeah.
So what makes a company like you guys settle on 40 or 45 or?
No, from company to company, distillery to distillery, you're kind of leaning on your palate, your partner's palates, your friends and family's palates, whatever's sitting well with you. That's how we got ours, was that fire in my backyard.
So it's truly just what hits you guys right.
Yeah.
You can make it as hot or as little hot as you want, to an extent, of course, but it's really just what you guys find. So did you go through and do 44 proof, 43 proof, 42? Like, we
didn't hit anything. I did have a myriad of different proofings from all the way from 90 proof to 102.
Or not 44%, I should say.
So that was back in 2013 when we did that with a group of friends. And it was just like, hey, what's tasting good with this mash bill?
So let's talk about the expansion. Then I want to get into pairings, because I don't think a lot of people that don't smoke a lot of cigars really truly understand what it means to pair a cigar. And as all 5 of you guys are big cigar, let's actually do this one first and we'll get into that, to the new shop. So when somebody comes up to you that is not a big cigar person, but they're like, hey, Casey, could I just have one of your cigars? And by the way, if you do go down there, they actually do have cigars as well. They're huge Foundation fans. So Nick, if you're watching,
Big Nick,
reach out. These guys are in your corner 110%.
Yeah,
so
we currently have the Tabernacle.
Yep. Love the Tabernacle.
Alec Bradley and my father down there.
So when you are telling somebody how to do a pairing with a cigar and a bourbon, what are some of your core teachings that you give in that lesson?
Yeah, so me and my palate, I usually pair a more robust or spicy, bold flavored cigar with our bourbon because it's a little softer. You have some nice sweet notes. Obviously, depending on your mood or what kind of drinker you are. And then with the softer cigars, I usually steer people towards our rye,
which is what I do.
Our cast strength. Yeah, you got it. So something a little lighter, so it's not a full bore boldness in your face. It's balanced. That's how I usually pair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I was to give you, say, I'm looking for a mild cigar, I'm Herod the dogging it, and it's 10 a.m. What would you recommend of any of your spirits for a more milder cigar? And then I'll give you what I have done in a milder cigar with yours.
Okay. For what I would do is pair the mild cigar with that rye that you just showed, or the cast strength, and then that bold cigar I'm going to pair with our 92 proof bourbon.
Okay, so your approach is heavier cigar, lighter bourbon.
Yeah.
Lighter cigar, heavier. I actually did a Connecticut with the barrel aged gin.
Yeah.
Nice. And it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it went really well because the softness of that gin, just the really subtle citrus notes went really good with the mild Connecticut.
Yeah.
That was not at 10 a.m. if my manager's watching, so don't worry about that. But so what are some of your favorite specific cigars with specific spirits that you make?
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. So I would say I love Perdomo's Lot 23.
Yes.
It's great. It's a great smoke. So I've had that with our moonshine, and our moonshine.
I could see that.
Our moonshine's kind of nice because it's our bourbon mash bill. It's still made in house. What's cool about our moonshine is, moonshine, you think it's going to rip your face off, just the word alone, right? It's been known to be super harsh,
unproofed.
Yeah, ours is very well balanced. It sits at 100 proof. And what's fun about it and what makes it kind of unique is in the fermentation process. So when we ferment, we pitch the yeast, we're pitching 250 pounds of cane sugar in that fermentation. And so a lot of people, when they pop that cork, they're like, oh man, I'm getting agave. It smells like a tequila, kind of sips like a tequila. So it's one of those unique products where you can make a moonshine old fashioned with orange bitters. You can make a mean margarita or just sip it on its own. And with that Perdomo, that Lot 23, it's just a nice, smooth product for the smoke. I like that Sober Mesa that we were talking about earlier.
The Brulee Blue,
my
wife's favorite cigar.
Yeah, it's a nicer one with I like that one with the cast strength.
Okay, I could see that. The sweetness off of the cigar itself kind of cuts through a little bit of that higher potency.
You got it.
Awesome.
And I would say, with the Tabernacle, I would go with that 92 proof bourbon, our flagship.
The first love.
The first
mine.
Love.
Absolutely.
Got it, man.
So what as you're, because for me at this point, I smoke I smoke and kind of pair differently. My drinking sense is different than my cigar sense. They don't always match up. So like here I'm pairing a lighter cigar, the Stillwell Star, which I would say is a medium, with the rye. But then again, I don't go off of, but I'm also not new to this. So my palate's a little bit different. If somebody was coming in as an expert in the cigar world, would you tell them to pair differently, or would you still give that same advice?
I would still give that same advice because everyone's palate is so drastically different, so I just have to speak on what I know and what my palate knows and let people figure it out on their own, really. Just give some recommendations, and if they want to try a different drink with it, they try another drink.
So let's get into this new facility. I have been just itching to dig into this. I am super excited. They're actually building me a show studio in this thing. I'm gonna be out there a couple times. No, but in all reality, it's a 50,000 square foot, correct?
Yeah, 49,000 square feet.
For well, we're men. Everybody likes that little extra
right
square footage.
It's super cool. Sits on 5.32 acres. So
and you own all of that.
We do. We bought the building and the property. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's in Fort Smith, Arkansas. The building that we purchased, it was the old laundry facility for Fort Chaffee military base. About 15 years ago, they downsized and sold a quarter of the base back to the city of Fort Smith. So that the area that we're in is called Chaffee Crossing. It's about a 20-minute drive from downtown Fort Smith. And it's just has a lot of stuff going on in the community. It's just about to kind of boom and flourish. A lot of restaurants, there's 5,000 houses being built right now. There's another 2,000 coming in. There's a lot of medical university. There's a lot of industry. So like Walther Guns is there, Ream, the water heaters are there, Klein Tools. The list goes on and on. And it's just a fun little pocket that we're going to be in. The base is still active. It's a training base. They just, as of March 15th, they signed all the paperwork and won the contract actually over Peterson Air Force Base to train different countries on all of the F-16 and F-35s.
Okay.
So we have 940.
So you're going to get to see all that shit flying around. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, we have 940 families from Singapore moving in this year to train on the planes that they purchased. I think they bought 24 F-35s. So that's going to help, bringing in families, bringing in military folk to come in and experience the distillery and have some drinks. So it'll be really cool.
Awesome. So you get this new facility and you got it because, without going into the details, you just didn't find the right place here. And you also were looking in the right place, by the way, had to supply your growth that you guys envision and are forecasting.
Yeah.
And so you decided to go to Arkansas. I think it's a fantastic move. The building is amazing. He sent me pictures. Right now, it's just a big wide building with a lot of columns in there. But as we speak, they're probably moving stuff in and getting everything up and out.
Yeah, we have 2 systems there. We'll have construction drawings back at the end of the month and start ripping and tearing in May. My hope is to have the system hooked in July and be filling barrels. So the distillery portion is about 47,000 square feet. We will have a whiskey bar attached so people can come and get the cocktails, and we'll be doing the tours and the whole 9 yards. And on the back 2.5 acres, we're actually we're building a RV park so people can actually come and stay, experience all of what Chaffee Crossing has to offer, come and get drinks and do the thing.
So you're setting hookups and everything out there for everyone?
So it'll be powered pads.
Oh, perfect.
And so people can kind of roll through, Arkansas, the Ozarks are right there. There's a lot of water, the big Arkansas rivers there, a lot of lakes. So a lot of boating, a lot of mountain biking in Northwest Arkansas. We started distributing in Arkansas 2 years ago. I'm a big mountain biker. We're all big into the outdoors. And if you guys don't know Bentonville, Arkansas, and Fayetteville for their mountain biking, it is unbelievable, just unbelievable. So we're trying to capture that outdoors crowd, cigar crowd, the car crowd. We're all big car guys and race and all that stuff. So kind of just mixing in our passions.
It's going to be a playroom for you guys.
It will be.
That's going to make you money.
The playground.
Yeah, it'll be a working playground.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because you had mentioned you wanted to do potentially weddings if people wanted to rent stuff out, getting it set up to have potential for a lounge, a cigar section in the front, and So it's not just going to be a distillery, but instead you're building it as a community gathering place that just happens to also distill.
Correct.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is true community building at its finest.
Yeah, we've done a lot of awesome things in our local community of Colorado Springs, and we'll continue to do so as we're leaving everything in Colorado Springs and Ivy Wild and the school with our whiskey house and our current distillery here in Springs. And then we're just going to keep on growing and scaling our company in just a kind of a healthy way.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question that Dan Thompson here that watches all the time from Micallef Cigars, very close friend. I'm sure has run into this problem throughout his years in the cigar world. But whenever you move, you always have people that are so quick to go, everything's changed, even though the bottle they bought was bottled months ago and is exactly what they bought 3 days prior.
Right.
So how are you guys gonna kind of overcome the naysayers of going, oh, you moved and everything's changed, damn it?
Yeah, and it just won't be that. We're working really hard. We're thankful that we have a good crew. You know, I have awesome partners. Eric and Mike are going to be here in Colorado. Jason and I are going to be relocating to Arkansas. And we've just been doing it long enough where we can go in and we can keep our products consistent.
So you can assure everybody that the Axon Oak that they've come to love will be and remain the same Axon Oak, even though it's the national distillery will be in Arkansas.
Correct.
Fantastic. That's awesome because there are naysayers out there that just have nothing better to do with their life than find something to complain about.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and there will be, and that's fine. We are very thankful, grateful for our fan base and our loyal following. We have a lot of fun with everybody that we work with, and you know, obviously we live in Colorado and we have amazing water, and that was a big thing when we were looking outside of the state for other production facilities and everything. Arkansas has wonderful water.
Absolutely.
And we'll be taking some of the we use El Dorado spring water from Boulder, Colorado, in all of our spirits, and we're going to continue to do so. Even in Arkansas, we're going to take some water out there, but we'll be using a lot of Arkansas water, and we've done some trial runs with that, and it's just great.
You hear that, everybody? Nothing in your Axon Oak universe will change. They are going to be bringing water in to guarantee the same. They also have a fantastic, I'm sure, filtration system, water system, and everything else that's going to be in the new one. So everything as it is now will be the same. And that makes me incredibly happy because I've grown to love this brand so much. I mean, my gosh, it's hard for me not to just go crazy with having the bottles behind me throughout the day. Sometimes you're like, it's a tough Zoom call. Go with the cask strength.
Yep.
But in all reality, that's awesome, and I'm so happy for you guys that this is launching off, and it's really going to facilitate you guys to have a maybe not necessarily a better quality product because it's already top notch, but more of it for your consumers to be able to enjoy, and in new states and new areas, and be able to get this out.
Yeah, we're going to be sourcing and continuing to do all of our blends for sure. There's no getting around that. This will just allow us to kind of try to get back to that point of releasing more of our own product out into the market.
So what are you open to saying what products are going to be brewed distilled? I love that you call it juice, by the way, because it's exactly what it is. Are you open to say what is going to be out there and what's going to be in Colorado, or is it going to be a mishmash?
So with the we're really trying to do Colorado bourbon here. We'll do some rye here. We'll do our moonshine here. And we'll pick up everything. We'll do every product in Arkansas as well.
Correct.
But we probably won't be doing the vodka or gin because most of that honestly is sourced anyway, and we just do blends. But yeah, we do want to keep on rolling with the bourbon and some of our brown spirits that Colorado loves. We want to do those here.
Now, I've seen that so many companies are coming out with canned liquor style drinks. Those seem to be very popular. I mean, you have a Topo Chico that's a spiked hard water. I know that there's a gin drink. I can't think of the name of it right now. That is actually has gin. There's a few vodkas that have real vodka.
Yeah.
Is that ever something that you guys would look into and kind of branching? It just seems like it's the hot thing right now.
You know, especially during COVID, it just blew up, really blew up, and we were kind of late to the game there. Obviously, it's something that isn't going away. It's very convenient for people, especially like if you're an outdoorsman and you're going to climb a mountain and do some beaver ponds up in the mountains, do some trout fishing or whatever. You don't want to take a glass bottle up there, right?
Well, most of the time you can't.
You can't. Yeah. So the cans are just super convenient for people. I think we will branch out in a small way. We have, like with the tobacco old fashioned or smoked old fashioned or doing a Manhattan or something, we can do that very easily. But
like
then
a canned version of that.
Yeah. But then
that would be awesome.
You're looking at bringing in a canning line. It's a big expense.
Big expansion too.
It is.
Because you have to have the sales to justify however many hundreds of thousands of dollars a machine like that costs.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it. We haven't pulled the trigger on anything, and we will have the room to do some new projects like that in the new facility. But as for Colorado, it definitely won't happen in Colorado. It'll probably be an Arkansas thing if it does happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a new facility.
Right.
You've got the room. You can shuffle stuff around. So as you're going through this expansion that you've been looking at, you said for about 8 years, right? You've been looking for a building.
Yeah.
So you finally achieved your goal.
Right.
What was the first thing you did differently in this place than when you first got your building, when you first started?
Honestly, we didn't have the money to hook a big Vendome system up, big, robust distillation system. Didn't have the room to hook big boilers and chillers or anything like that. So with the new space, we have more of it. And we've invested some money into some really nice systems, and we will have the big boilers and the big chillers, and everything will be running off of steam instead of electric heating elements. So we've been last 10 years, our still has been ran off of heating elements. That equipment is stuff that we bought cheap. Our kettle, our boiler, is a Nestle water tank that we bought off of eBay for $3,000.
Nestle water tank.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I'm a welder and welded in the ferrules for the heating elements. But where that changes is our current system is very inefficient, as the heat up times are about 3.5 hours just to heat everything up.
Oh, just to get it to the temp where it starts to cook off the water.
You got it. Yeah. So this new system is operated off of steam. We have a big, robust boiler that our heat up times are going from 3.5 hours to 30 to 45 minutes. So we'll be able to run this system 3 times a day and fill a lot of barrels, and it's going to be wonderful.
That's a big difference. Now, just to give everybody an understanding, not dollar amount wise, it's nobody's business, but X wise, how much was it? 3x what you spent on that newer one to give you the faster versus the first one? Are we talking like a huge, much more efficiency expense?
Yeah, like we have I don't know what that would be, but the first one was a home project. You know,
Okay,
it was a cheap little project that we did. I built a column. The only thing I didn't build up top was the deflagmator, but everything was very low budget. And the new systems, we bought one new. It had never been hooked up. It's on the pallets at the distillery right now in Arkansas. We got a really good deal on both of the units that we're going to run. They're just quality, you know. They're top notch, and they're going to really do well for us.
That's awesome. So obviously the expense was considerably more, considering you guys, put that first one together, a lot of it yourself.
For sure.
So what does that feel like as somebody that's now been in for 10 years that can walk into your new facility and go, we now have the money for this. We've built our company up. Like, you didn't think 10 years ago you guys would have been around for 10 years, probably.
No. We thought it was at the time more of just a hobby, just going to have fun in our community. So now we're at a point where, honestly, at the end of the day, it's because of our fan base. You know, they're out there continuing to buy our bottles and drink our products and support us. And so extremely, extremely grateful. We're at this point now where we can go and we can buy the equipment and we can scale in a healthy direction.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that bootstrap.
It was definitely bootstrap.
Yeah, some of it was the actual strap itself.
Yeah,
and part of the boot.
Mm-hmm.
But like that is awesome. We have here John, love the Accent Oak, wishing you all success moving forward.
Thanks, John.
So as you guys are getting into this, so I want to kind of touch on the 5 business owner dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more cooks in the kitchen sometimes can be a good thing and sometimes can be a rough thing. So when the 5 of you guys got together and just started to kind of go through the dynamics of the partnership and everything to how it is now,
mm-hmm.
has a lot of that changed, or because you're kind of a jack of all trades inside the company? And from what I understand, Jason's kind of a jack of all trades inside the company.
Yeah.
But how does that dynamic change now that you guys have been around 10 years? You're literally moving to Arkansas. Jason's literally moving to Arkansas.
Yeah.
So does that then change the Colorado dynamic part of it, since you and Jason are going to be 90% Arkansas?
Not necessarily, because the way it's being structured is we're, in a way, we're kind of downsizing just a little bit here in Colorado, with leaving everything open and stuff. We now have more manpower. We have, we have 2 partners here. One is now on full time. He's been on for Eric's our CFO. He's been around since the very beginning. I was in his wedding.
Eric came to the event
18 years ago. Yes. So we are all super close and super tight, and we balance each other out very well, thankfully. Obviously we're men, and if we need to have a conversation about something, we have a conversation. But thankfully, looking at a lot of these companies, friends companies, partnerships that have dissolved and fallen apart, we just haven't had to experience any of that. So
they also have a full-size UFC octagon in the back of their distillery that they all do. No,
yeah.
But in all seriousness, how are disputes settled amongst 5 people?
Mm-hmm. So honestly, it was starting out. It was more Jay and I, and Scott and Eric. They had more, in ways, especially Scott had more business sense than we had. We were kind of, Jay and I are very, very hands-on. Eric is really good with the finances. So we just have a great team.
So you guys essentially put together a team where you're all's shortcomings were, the other one
Yeah,
met up with those shortcomings.
you got it, man. And it's true. Like, it is fact.
And so that's what makes a great partnership.
It does. It really does. So there's not, obviously we all have an opinion when we're trying to get things done, and we've done a good job with getting to the those end results with getting products to the shelf. And Jason, we all started with him, and then it was myself and Eric Baldini, and then we brought Sky and Scott White in. And honestly, we've shifted around a little bit because Scott and Sky are no longer part of the company. They're doing well with their other companies. We as of recently, Mike Helwich has been on for about 3 years. He was a longtime friend. He was our commercial realtor, got us our first space. And he's not a working partner. Great guy. He's redoing our lease down at Ivy Wild right now. So that's something that I can go and talk to Mike Bristol and Joe Coleman, our landlords, about doing the lease and everything, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
right?
he can negotiate.
Yeah, he knows how to talk the talk. And we brought on another partner. His name's Matthew Friesen. So we just hired him in January, and he's our vice president of sales. He lives in Florida. He was at Coors for 10 years.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about him. Okay.
Yeah. Great guy. He's recently engaged, recently found out he's going to become a dad here soon. And it's just, we're super happy for him, and just to have him on, because he's great in sales field, great with relationship and all that. And so we're just going to press on forward. We just hired a regional sales manager in Arizona, another sales manager in Denver, because that's where we really need to grow in Colorado. This is northern Colorado and on the western slope. So Kerry's going to handle all of that. We just onboarded him a few days ago.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, just we're super pumped.
It's just ever growing,
ever grown. Yeah, Jason had taken a step to help his step away for a little bit to help his brother with a distillery. But he's back full time. He's been back for about 2 years now. And Eric's been on for a year now. So now we have a pretty robust team that's, working partners. And it's really helped. So.
No, it sounds like, and that's awesome. So you essentially chose the partners that you wouldn't necessarily butt heads, but that each one of y'all's specialties are different than the other.
Correct.
In many ways.
Some
overlap, I'm sure,
yeah.
but as far as core responsibilities, core differences,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes that partnership so smooth and so clean, is in the sense that everybody kind of knows their own roles.
Yeah.
And oftentimes inside companies, when you have that many, you have disputes, you have buyouts, you have
sure.
So that's awesome. You guys have been 10 years, and that's remarkable. That's for as somebody that consults for businesses on a daily basis.
Yeah.
When I hear multiple partners, I'm like, oh, my life got harder as a sales guy.
Sure. And I'm sure sometimes it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Because you got one partner that's all for it.
Yeah.
And then one partner against it, and the other one's like, yeah, I don't really know where I want to go.
Yeah.
So as you guys are doing the expansion, how did it come to where you and Jason were decided to move out there? Or was that something you guys were just gung-ho because of the outdoors, and you guys are big outdoors people?
Honestly, I guess Jason and I are geared, a little bit more. We know there's a lot to do out there, hands-on wise.
Mm-hmm.
And both Jason and I have been distilling for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Eric can run the finances from anywhere.
Yeah.
And Matthew's just going to be out there getting whiskey on the shelf. So yeah, right now we just have a great team. We're really balanced, and Jason and I are going to be out there putting everything together and putting a lot of juice in the barrels.
And it's very good juice.
All right.
So one of the things that I like to touch on with everybody is mentors. And I like to touch on mentors for a few different reasons. One of them, I think, is having great people and a mentor relationship. I always tell people it's never like, oh, Casey, now you're my mentor. It happens like naturally to where all of a sudden 10 years go by and you're like, I've learned more from them than they have from me. So as somebody that really believes that I wouldn't be where I am with either the show or in my own personal life or even in my professional sales life without having people to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you guys kind of tinkered a lot, but have you had any mentors in this industry to kind of bounce ideas off? You mentioned a few companies that helped you guys out. Has there been anybody like that for you in this industry, or have you guys had to go on it on your own?
No, good question. For the most part, we have, we've gone and just a lot of trial and error. Right before we fired up, I went and toured Woods High Mountain Distillery in Salida, and then just PT is the owner up there. He was the mayor of Salida. He had a pizza company out there, and now he just has an amazing distillery. And huge shout out to Lee and PT, two brothers that own it. And I just sat back and picked his brain, and he was so gracious with his time and just kind of walked me through things. And he did tell me where there was going to be some hurdles, and there were, because he's gone through it, he's walked through it, so PT for me early on, and we didn't spend a huge amount of time together, but I got a lot out of him in just a short amount of time. But great conversations, and he really did, churn vision just a little bit, get me back on the right track as to moving forward and what we needed to do. So he was fantastic. But yeah, for the most part, it was just us, and I think that was good. When we got in, we were we were just ahead of the curve when we were getting in the game. And so we didn't really know who to go out and talk to. Victor Matthews, that's in Cascade, Colorado, Black Bear Distillery.
Yep.
Wonderful guy. And when we first started, we took him some samples, and it was just really cool night because we didn't know Victor, and we thought he was going to shoot us down with all of the products. We were like, oh crap, what are we doing? This guy knows what he's doing. And he tasted everything, and he goes, just make sure you invite me when you win your first award. He was just like, talked very highly of the product and the process that we were working with at the time, and so that helped out a lot.
Well, that goes to, you make a really good point that I don't know if you were trying to make, but it flows into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's no time frame on somebody you can learn from. You learned from PT, you got the information. You will always consider him as somebody that helped you.
Yeah.
Even though it was short term, you would still look back and go, yeah, he actually did mentor me here.
He did. Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter, people. I've had mentors come in and out of my life to where we don't even really talk anymore because paths change, they move, you lose contact. But what matters is what you got and you learned as to what makes somebody a mentor to you or not. So as now you're in this for 10 years, you are training people that work at your facility. What is your understanding or definition of a mentor and having a mentee?
We have had several people come through as employees, and now they're they're branching out and doing whatever. We love being entrepreneurs. We love small business. We love the community, and we've been able to help several of our employees as mentors get to the next step. That's the fun part, right? That's the beautiful part. I would say the whiskey house has been there's been a little bit more of that. We've had our some bartenders branch off and start food trucks and restaurants, very successful restaurants. We've had people branch off and start consulting companies, and I get calls and like, Casey, am I doing the right thing? Am I moving in the right direction? What am I doing? Because there's a lot of nerves. There's a lot
very
of
much.
When you go to start signing checks and bringing on your first employees, now we've walked through all that. So we do, and we can talk to it. So that's been a lot of fun. We've had a great time with that. Lauren Reese, she started out as a server for us. She was getting her marketing degree.
I would say now she's your marketing person.
Well, now she's with Victory Distillery.
Oh, really?
In Philly. And I'm so proud of her. She's been able to rock and roll and grow and do her thing, and she's really good at what she does. And her boyfriend Britt is out with a brewery out there. He was one of our distillers. So it's just, it is fun to see people grow and get tied into what they really are passionate about, because it's not always going to be distilling, right?
Correct.
So we love that. People get nervous when they come and say, "Hey, Casey, I'm kind of thinking about this," and we there's just a lot of cool, there's praise there. We want to help them succeed and get to the next step, and there's been a lot of that through Axe and the Oak.
And that right there, how you just phrased that, in my opinion, is what everybody should look for in somebody giving them guidance of any kind. And that number one thing is, it's not a selfish thing. Yes, you would love to have everybody stay with you, that you put time.
Sure.
But you're just as happy for them when they go out and make it their own claim. They go out and do something, go to another distillery with your knowledge, knowing that they left you knowing significantly more than they did when they started.
Yeah.
And that is really the way a mentor-mentee relationship should be. It's not a mentor if the person that's training you is not looking out for your best interest. If they're selflessly looking out for your best interest and are happy to see you leave, because knowing that your next path is better for you or more training, that's what makes somebody that gives instruction valuable. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, our very first employee, Ryan Toth, great guy, love him, and he branched off and started his own consulting company, and he's doing really, really well. You gotta feed into that and let them go and do their thing, and a lot of them have done very well for themselves. It's really cool. And I'm just I've had some great mentors through my lifetime. I'm a worker. I just love it. I love more of a hands-on guy than a business guy. I've learned a lot over the years and stuff. But my dad, a lot of my old bosses, everyone's had a great boss. Everyone's had a really bad boss, and I've learned beautiful things from both sides. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that bad boss or the boss that you think is bad is teaching you some damn lessons. Right?
Yeah,
learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah, it goes off of it wasn't until my about mid-20s where I realized that my dad wasn't wrong in everything he said.
Oh, Dad was right.
Yeah, so it kind of now I have my own daughter now, and I know she's gonna be like, "Oh, Dad's always wrong."
Yeah.
But in reality, like you can learn from a quote unquote bad boss great things, whether it be to not be a boss like that, to not operate like that, or see through the rough, gruff image that he puts off and actually learn. And I've had a lot of bosses that I've disagreed with, but they've taught me some of the best lessons in sales that I've ever had.
For sure.
Because I've disagreed with their approach and they've proven me wrong.
Yeah.
So what does Casey do when he's not at a show, traveling, an event? What do you do with your extracurricular life that brings you the same passion?
Oh man, so much. Yeah. I have a beautiful wife. September will be 18 years.
Shit.
Yeah.
18 years.
18 years.
Jeez.
Yeah, I have a beautiful son. He's his name's Walker. He's 8 years old, and he's just my best little buddy. He's just so much fun. We have a lot in common. Grew up playing basketball. Grew up riding a lot of bikes. Huge gearhead. Love rebuilding cars, restoring and racing and all of that stuff. I love meat. Love hunting. I love chocolate. I love beer. I love whiskey. I love life. I have an incredible family. I have just an amazing group of friends all over the world. Man, I'm a grateful man. That's for sure. Yeah.
It sounds like it, and you're very blessed,
I am.
and you know, just knowing you the last year or so has been absolutely fantastic. Friendship and partnership, and so what is going to change most about your life in Arkansas versus Colorado? Now, let me phrase that question in two different parts. What is the one thing you're going to miss most, and what is the one thing that Arkansas has to offer that Colorado doesn't for your family?
Okay. That's fair. That's an easy one. We're big into the outdoors, which Arkansas and Colorado have a lot going on, which is awesome, right? They don't have skiing. We're big skiers.
Water skiing.
Right. They have water skiing. They have more, water. Colorado just, we have bits and pieces.
We have to pay to go swimming.
Yeah. Arkansas has some amazing rivers and lakes, and we've never been boat people, but we're excited to go and explore that. Their cycling is wonderful, just like Colorado. Obviously, it's different terrain. We have these majestic mountains. They have a lot of great gravel and single track. So I think those are going to be the big things. And then with racing cars and stuff, it's putting the car on a trailer and driving to the track. So you can do that here, you can do that there.
Hunting's going to be different.
Hunting's going to be different, but
you're going to actually get whitetail out there.
Right. So we usually like elk hunt here.
Elk or muley.
Yep. And we're big pig hunters, and we usually drive to Texas. There's a lot of pig hunting. Yeah. The ranch that we usually hunt is now going to be 4.5 hours away instead of 14 hours away. So that's a big plus. And there's a lot of land that we're going to be hunting right there in Arkansas. So yeah, we're pumped.
Awesome. Awesome. So have you already been looking into all your licensing and what it's going to take to get that? Do you have to take I assume with your hunting in Colorado, you don't have to take any sort of hunter safety course or anything like that out there.
Yeah, out there, I'm thankful that a lot of people with the wild pigs, they just think they're more, they're a big nuisance in Texas and in Arkansas with the crops.
Same with Florida.
Yeah. And so you don't even need a license. You just need some land to hunt on. And
ammo.
We have plenty of land to hunt on now. We've got a lot of buddies out there with land.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So is it going to be more hunting for you out there?
I would say probably more. Yeah.
I know where I'm going next year.
Yeah. We had my wife and I had a cabin in Westcliff, Colorado. And And so I would hunt down there. We sold it with this transition, so that was kind of a hard one for us. But yeah, we're excited to get out there. There's going to be ample amounts of hunting for us. So lots of pulled pork.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you ever see the Axe and Oak truck driving around Colorado, it's him. Now we're going to see an Axe and Oak boat.
There will be a boat.
There will be a boat. Well, I know where I'm going hunting and fishing next year.
Yes.
That's gonna be a lot of fun for you and your family, and it's gonna open up a new door, a new avenue.
Yeah.
So as somebody that's running a business, that has a family, that is starting a new avenue, what has been a big challenge with quote unquote selling your family this move?
Yeah, you'd think it'd be very, very difficult, but I have a wonderful family, so everyone's just been so supportive, and we're just excited to have for the adventure, for moving out there, for having all of our friends and family come and visit and experience the Arkansas life. So yeah, the wife is excited. My son's excited.
That's awesome.
And my family and friends are just like, yeah, we're coming out. We can't wait. So you'd think that it would be harder than it is.
Move school,
right?
friends.
All of the stuff, Thankfully,
even for you,
my son's finishing his school year here in Colorado, and then new adventure next year. So, yeah, it's really, I've been more at peace with this transition than a lot of things. It's really gone smooth.
Now, if you could tell a Casey 10 years ago a piece of advice, does that keep going out on you?
Yeah, man.
Is it not pulling?
What the heck? I
don't know.
I might need to stab it here in a minute.
Is it not pulling? I'll give you a different one.
No, it's just good.
What is a piece of advice you would give a 10-year younger Casey when he started out versus now?
So, especially in the industry, and this would be a mentor to someone else looking at opening up a distillery. We kind of started backwards, and we as far as making our own product and sourcing. So we learned 4 years in that honestly we should have, from a business standpoint, keeping the doors open. It would have been easier for us to swallow our pride and to have sourced from day one with vodka and gin, stuff that we could have gotten to the shelf straight away. So if you're out there wanting to open up a distillery, that's what I would recommend. I would recommend going and starting with a source product as you let your flagship, your in-house product age. So we weren't very smart when we started. So we've learned a lot, and that's a big thing that I would have told myself 10 years ago. We would have started with white spirits. We would have started sourcing straight out of the gate, because that's how a lot of these big companies have grown. That's how they've done it. They started sourcing. They had product to sell day one. We didn't have that. We had to wait. And that's hard. And if you want to scale your company, it's an issue because you don't have enough juice to put on the shelf, especially with brown spirits. So those would be the two big ones.
Now, what did you say to the naysayers that were, if you ever had any, that were like, oh my God, dude, there's already 5,000 million bajillion bottles of bourbon. Like, how are you going to eat? Like, why would you even go into this? It's saturated.
I would say find your niche. Find your niche. There's a lot of things that people aren't doing out there. So that's the cool thing with spirits. That's the cool thing about, being different and unique and kind of thinking outside of the box. We're set up it's pretty cool with where we're at with our current facility. Right next door is Local Relic Brewery. in the same complex. And in the same complex, we also have Boxing Brothers cider. We have Monte Cervino wine. We have Daredevil coffee. So what I love about this industry and the food and beverage industry is there is so much collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been in Whole Foods. We've been in all the bratwursts. We've been, we're at Cow Chemistry downtown and all their cherry cordials with our bourbon. We do a lot of different collaboration with coffee. So we give them our barrels and they age their beans in our barrels before roasting. And then we'll get that barrel back and pass it on to somebody else. And then we'll empty a bourbon barrel and we'll pass it to local Relic Brewery and they'll do a Fratelli Chili Stout. And then we'll get it back and we'll age another bourbon in it. Or we'll pass something to Boxing Brothers cider or Monte Cervino wine or Daredevil coffee and do something crazy. And there's always something new and different. And I'm pulling all of these different flavor profiles from different parts of the industry.
So it's the what might I do with this that makes it fun.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you're doing a bourbon, you have to start out with at least a 51% corn. And a lot of our stuff, like our flagship, is a 68% corn. On our source product, it's a 75% corn. With our flagship rye, it's a 68% rye base. With our sourced, it's a 95%. So kind of mixing and figuring out how to blend and consistency and everything. There's so many things you can do and so many different profiles you can go and target and kind of hone in on. But there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck and they just don't know where to start. You just got to tinker. You have to have fun. You have to do a lot of trial and error and figure out what you like. And that's cool too, because every palate is going to lead to a different product. Every distillery owner has a different palate than I have. And I guess that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
So you heard it here. Owning a distillery doesn't mean you get to sit around and get drunk all day, just some of the time. It's actually more work.
It's a lot of work.
Than I think people truly. They watch shows like Moonshiners, and they're like, "Oh, I can just go in the woods and tuck this under some camo blanket," and then, "Oh, that's fake.
Yeah.
Oh, that's mapped out." As somebody that started the show, I never realized when I did reviews, it was 3-4 hours to do the review, to do the editing, to do the posting, and then the live show. It's getting everyone to be here on time. Like, it's a lot more work than people think for most things that people find or go, "Oh, it's got to be all fun and games. It's all just party town."
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And yeah, definitely. Like you said, people don't see that. They're just like, "Oh, cool. Guy has a distillery."
He did nothing for it. He just
being burnt and covered in corn juice and doing the extraction and having to pull all the crap out of the mash tun, and it's a lot of dang work. And dealing with distribution companies,
the
laws, traveling, taxes.
Every bit of way, everybody. When you start a business, every step of the way, everybody has their hand out with not a suggestion, but a demand.
Yeah.
And that is the hardest part of starting a heavily regulated business, like either cigars or alcohol in any way. I don't think most people realize the extent of which lawyers need to get involved to get all the licensing and everything going. But then you're also limited on your branding, your labels. They all have to be approved. So
they are, yeah.
Every step of the way, there's an approval.
Yeah. So there's a lot that we have to handle and map out and do daily to make sure that we're running a successful company. And I guess this would be a great piece of advice for any company. Doesn't matter what you want to do out there. You could be the greatest barber in the world. You could be the greatest distiller in the world. And if you want to start a company, you could do it and you can get something off the ground. But looking back, talking to my 10 years ago, Casey, Casey, 10 years ago, did you know, everything there is to know about QuickBooks, taxes, all this stuff? You can go in and you can make whiskey. You can cook some grain, right? There's so many other things that you have to focus on to run a successful company.
Yeah, a ton.
And that's the beautiful thing about the partnership that we have with Axe and the Oak, is we have people that are well-rounded and versed in those other aspects. Mm-hmm. If Casey Ross were to do this on his own, I know I would fail. Yeah, I would fail.
And that's the benefit of having a solid partnership.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in here into the final closing lightning round questions. Hey, how you doing, Mike? Mike actually is the sales guy for Opus X Society.
Oh, all right.
So
what's up, Mike?
If you guys are you going to be at Cigar Fest again?
I will be.
Awesome. So if you guys are at Cigar Fest this year, definitely jump over to the X and Oak table and try some samples.
Yeah.
You'll get some cards to go in and try a sample of any of their spirits that they bring.
Yeah, we usually we have the tobacco old fashioned. We have a couple cocktails that you can try, and then we have our whole lineup that you can come and try everything that we have. So
as we close, I always ask a few lightning round questions here.
Okay.
And we'll start with, what is your favorite cigar wrapper when you pick a cigar that you don't know, if you're going for something new?
Man, I'm a big like the Maduro. I'm a big Dominican guy. So sometimes you get kind of stuck with smoking same old sticks, which I'm boring. Yeah. I've been prone to do.
Oh yeah,
like going out but I really do like going out and experience. I hadn't had a Monte Cristo in a very long time. Smoked one last night. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. So I just got back on Monday from a cruise with my family for spring break, and I was like, all right, I'm unplugging. We didn't get the Wi-Fi when I'm not. My wife wasn't letting me do any work, and so I was like, I'm gonna have some nice drinks. I'm gonna have some nice smokes. I bought, I think, 6 cigars when I was out. I didn't smoke one of them. It was just kind of wild. It was just all family and playing with my son, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, it was fantastic. But I was like, man, I got home with all these cigars. I didn't smoke one of them. Yeah.
So you brought up a point about family just now. So what is your definition of work-life balance?
Yeah. So honestly, as I've told everybody, I love work. I don't think I'll ever retire. I don't think I could. I just love doing, building, working with my hands. I just love, I love it. And this company, Axe and the Oak, has been it's been a lot, especially early on. I was still working in the entertainment industry, building stages for rock and roll and country and pop and all that stuff. So I was traveling quite a bit, and then I would get home and then we started firing this thing up, and so a lot of late nights, and it was kind of pulling me away. But my family life and that balance, that work, that family balance is, man, we love breakfast. We love that breakfast table. We love the dinner table, and we love that quality time on the weekends. But I'm to the point now, thankfully, where I'm working basically a 9 to 5, and obviously there's travel, but breakfast super important, dinner super important. That quality time at night with my son is super important, and then just having that quality time with my wife for sure. They're more important than any of this. It's very balanced now, and I know the next 2 years with getting this new distillery fired up, it's going to be a lot, and I'll have to make some adjustments there a little bit, but I'm very cautious and try to make that family life is is number one.
So on that same topic, how important is it to have a supportive family? Like when I say that, like how important is it to set the expectations with your family around your time?
Mm-hmm. It is, as a guy, definitely not the best communicator.
Really?
Yeah, I am one of those. But my wife is a trooper, and she's not afraid to check me if I am away too much. And this past year there was a lot more travel than I was expecting, because we went into several more states, and you have to go and do ride-alongs and try to get your product out there. And we're doing a lot more sponsorships and some NASCAR stuff, and so it's a fine line, man. You just have to try to reel it in and do the best you can.
When it comes to cigars, are you straight cut, V cut, or punch?
Typically a V cut.
V cut.
Yeah.
I lost my V in Illinois, so I don't have a good V. See, he's talking too much, guys. That's why his cigars go out. It's not like he's not the star of the show.
I'm a fast smoker, man.
So V cut. Obviously, I normally ask what's your favorite pairing. My guess with you, correct me if I'm wrong, would be a bourbon or a whiskey with a cigar.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite Accent Oak go-to with a cigar if you were just randomly picking?
Right now it's the rye.
Rye.
Yeah.
I love the rye.
I do too.
I love the rye.
Great with a cigar.
In fact, I'm going to have a little bit more.
Yeah, that's my definite go-to. I love our product for sure. I'm a big turkey guy.
Gobble turkey?
Turkey, yeah. Even just the Turkey 101. I like the rare breed. I'm a big turkey fan. Russell, of course. Old Forester 1910 with a cigar. Forget about it. I love that.
Old Forester is good. Old Forester is good. I'm not a huge turkey guy, but I think I'm not a big turkey person because my friends drank a lot of it in college because it was the quickest thing to get you.
I remember,
buzz.
And
it's like absolute with me. I if I smell it, I instantly just brings me back to hugging the porcelain god.
Yeah, and thankfully, like I get you. And I stayed away from turkey for a long time. I wasn't a big drinker in high school, and a lot of people that see me now are like, "Hey, Casey, what are we run into each other? What are you doing now?" I have a co-own a whiskey distillery. They're like, "You never drank anything. Like you didn't drink in high school. What's going on?" And but I remember all of my friends drinking, their Mickey's 40s and their Mad Dog 2020 and their Wild Turkey 101. And I remember going bow hunting with Jason and another friend of ours. And they brought up a bottle of Turkey 101, and golly, we poured it one night after out hiking all day. The nose was just beautiful. It just hit right. I love that. I love that whiskey. It's fantastic. And so a lot of our younger selves did ourselves a disservice by making that the one. Yeah. So I'm very happy with the turkey. Old Granddad, the bottled and bond or the 114, fantastic. But yeah, Old Forester, Michter's, like Michter's a lot. So yeah, it's fun.
When you pick a cigar, what is your favorite size?
Usually don't have a whole lot of time, so even that what is it, that Fuente, that little steppy.
Okay, the Hemingway.
They call it Hemingway, and then there's it's like a fast smoke. It's like a 30-45 minute smoke. It has a cool name.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, but the Alec Bradley Tempest series is it's one of my favorites for sure. But yeah, when I go in or sit down at Old West down in Colorado Springs, I love Mike, and so I'll sit down with just about a stick that'll last about an hour. And do a little work.
So about a Robusto or
Robusto,
less.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My first cigar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was your first cigar?
I bought from my first cigar. I bought from Coltrane Liquor in Colorado Springs. It was the Hoya de Monterey Excalibur. It took me like a week to smoke. That was my first cigar. I remember I literally remember driving up, parking, getting out, like, oh man, I'm of age. I'm gonna go get a cigar. That was the cigar.
I'm gonna buy the baseball bat.
I got the baseball bat. Yeah, I did for sure.
Now, without going into any kind of detail of it, do you ever envision, because you want to put a lounge area, do you ever envision Accent Oak having some kind of a house blend or some type of a specific offering?
We will. We might be talking with one of your sponsors.
I think so. You might be working with somebody.
Yeah.
We'll release that at a later date.
We will release that at a later date. But we've been talking about that for about 6 years now.
Awesome.
And being big cigar guys, it just makes sense to have a special blend.
Sure.
We've been working with a couple cigar companies to do some barrel aging. So we definitely want to do that.
And then that gives you the ability to do a bourbon infused.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Which we might be announcing something quite special here before too long in the horizon as things go by.
Right.
So awesome. So in closing the show here, I always ask this question. It's kind of a weird question, but I always think it's a great philosophical interlooking style question.
I'm not
that
very
I
smart,
actually
so
I'm not very smart either. But I actually got the question from inside the Actor Studio.
Oh.
When the time comes that you meet your creator, whoever your creator is, what would you like to hear?
That I was honest, a good friend, a good listener, because I'm a big people person, and I really do truly love people. Going back to the mentorship and some of the employees that you deal with, some things just don't jive. Some things just don't work out. It doesn't mean that you don't care about that employee any less. You want the best for that employee. But kind of as a businessman, you have to do what's right for the company. And so sometimes it's hard. Relationships hard and stuff. But I would say those, yes, with being on the spot, I'd say those things. You loved well.
You lived well.
You lived well, yeah.
And you did well.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. It's a challenging question.
That is a challenging question.
And it's always how Inside the Actor Studio ended. So I always feel like that gives kind of people a little bit of an insight to how they want people to view them.
Sure.
Is what their expectations are when they meet whatever creator in the end. And for me, that's a telling answer what you just gave, because your entire answer you gave was never anything about you, but instead you wanted to be judged on how you were outwardly versus how you were inwardly. So meaning I'm hard on myself, but no, it was, I want to be judged on how I was taking care of people, how I helped people. Yeah. And that to me is a key insight to actually how your brain works, which is you care more about helping others than necessarily how you get helped. Mm-hmm. And that is a great quality in a boss and an owner and a friend. And so, no, I love that answer. You knocked it out of the park. I'll say that was a fantastic answer.
All right.
And a great insight into, like I said, how your mind works, how you like to help people.
I love helping people.
And that to me means a lot because you've helped me out a lot. And I look very forward to this continued partnership in both
me too, man. It's been
Rocky
fun.
Mountain Cigar Night.
It's been great.
Absolutely, it's been great. And For anybody looking, they can go right on AxeandOakDistillery.com, find their bottles, get them shipped to your door. With gas prices being so high, don't even have to go anywhere. Just order your 12 bottles, 6
12.
bottles.
Wow.
12. Oh, yeah, no, 12.
Yeah.
We're going
Wow.
with 12.
It's going big.
Whatever you want to order, try them all. They're absolutely fantastic. They will be a staple in your bar the way they have been with mine. And I'll be very honest with you, never thought when I called Casey originally, I thought he was going to hang up the phone. And then the first words to me, he said, I'm intrigued. Let's talk. And we set up a meeting. So from the bottom of my heart, truly appreciate Axe and Oak, appreciate everything that you guys are doing, appreciate this partnership. And I see nothing but world domination in your future, especially with this new facility you guys are going into. So again, check out Axe and Oak, AxeandOakDistillery.com. They'll ship the bottles directly to your door, and you won't have to go anywhere. And if you're not in one of the 8 states that they're currently in, doesn't even matter. You could still have the same enjoyment. And as the official drink of the show, you can never, ever go wrong with them. So thank you so much. Wish you much long success and growth inside of this. Mm-hmm. And until we see you all again, drink what you like, drink as much of it as you can, and have a great rest of your week. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.